I just, I haven't seen so much, ambition and application and inclusiveness into all socioeconomic classes as I have in any other meeting. So I'm just thrilled and very thankful to be part of this community. So I'm a neuroscientist that basically discovered stem cells as a tool pretty early on in my career. Very first step I had into my first professorship, I called up my old girlfriend from Cambridge and I said, "Hey Nadia, can you get me some stem cells?" She'd gone on to work for the world's largest stem cell company. And then I found myself with human stem cells and one of the first people in the world to get them outside of that one company that had them at the time. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. It's an intersection of course, medicine, but also corporation, and then government and religion. So just an extraordinarily interesting journey along the stem cell path over the last decade or two. And I think the thing that made me love it the most was the diversity of fields that it brought me into. So Stem Cell 101 is that a sperm and an egg get together and it makes a stem cell, and the stem cell makes you. So therefore, a stem cell has the potential to become any cell in your body. Therefore, stem cell science has the potential to treat each and every human disease and injury. And that's just simply true. Now, putting that into reality is much, much harder. And it's been fun to be on that side of it because it pulled me away from neuroscience in some cases. I did develop a neuroscience application for stem cells, but also into many, many other areas like drug screening, like retina, like ulcerative colitis, like rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, and now an application to the immune system. And what I'd like to tell you by way of this talk is that the immune system equals longevity. So this has brought me into your field. Many of you are far better at this than I am. And that is longevity and aging. Clearly, we all die of aging. It brings on everything. It's kind of incredible that the FDA does not consider it a disease. You can't actually run a test on aging, only a manifestation of aging. But we all die of some manifestation of it. There's a ridiculous amount of money being spent in this sector. That's very exciting. The number of companies formed, the venture capital money that's flowed into this sector, the number of publications and clinical trials is exploding. And amongst all of that furor, amongst all of that extraordinary, just excitement, whenever I feel that way, I always think I really should look at Gartner's curve. And for any of you who don't know what this is a theorem that applies to every single emerging technology, regardless of sector. So every single emerging technology follows Gartner's curve. And a new technology starts with some tech trigger, and then it has a peak of inflated expectations. And then there's some reason. Maybe it's that the tech takes too long. Maybe the investors want their monies back more. Maybe there's technological trouble. Maybe there's politics that get in the way. But it leads to this trough of disillusionment and then a steady climb up a slope of enlightenment to a plateau of productivity. And so my very new assessment of the longevity field is we're about right there. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But when I look at those major milestones in the longevity field, I see, as a scientist who's done translation from all my career in humans, that most of them are on mice and rodents, and that's extraordinary, like really amazing stuff, and it portends greatness for the future. But boy, there's some challenge ahead, and we've not yet hit that trough of disillusionment. It's still, we're all on the high in this sector. So what should you do in such a case? You should look at some other sector that's quite close to it. And for me, that's stem cells. So what I see in the stem cell sector with the major things that have happened over the last 10, 20 years is that, we had an approved cell therapy, Dolly the sheep, remember? That really brought stem cells to the fore. And first human stem cells derived. And, George Bush is largely said to have killed the stem cell field when he restricted federal dollars on any new stem cells. The truth of the matter is actually he had a voting populace that thought that stem cells came out of the back door of abortion clinics, and that's not true. I've never used aborted fetal human tissue for stem cells. Most stem cell scientists have not. They're from the discard of fertility clinics, or they're from your skin of an adult. So there's a lot of ethical ways to procure these things, but at the time, the populace, 70% of the United States, thought that they came from aborted fetuses. And so George Bush was in this difficult thing of trying to facilitate while trying to pander to a populace to get reelected. He actually drew the balance beautifully and said, you can't use federal dollars on anything new, but only the ones that are already here, which left us with about 7 or 8 lines. But that's okay, except they were all middle-class white. So there were some problems there because of lack of diversity, but it kept the stem cell sector going. But it did result in a large crash and disillusionment. And I was involved in the founding of the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine, one of the chief scientific advisors of that, Bob Klein's brilliant brainchild. And then the whole thing started to come up again with some really interesting characters along the way, Nancy Reagan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, et cetera, helping it get in. And then I was the one who did the first high purity differentiation. Having a stem cell is really, really fun, but you really need to do something with it. You know, you can't go putting toenails in the spinal cord. So you need to make 100% pure spinal cord cells in a very subpopulation, for example. So that first high purity differentiation was really important for the sector. And then, of course, the IPS technology came and a Nobel Prize for Shinya Yamanaka. Obama erased all of the Bush restrictions. My work with spinal cord injury figured well as the first stem cell clinical trial in the world using embryonic stem cells, or IPS. And then it kept going. And you know, most recently, the laws of Japan have been changed to facilitate stem cells in a really big way. And CERM was just renewed for $5.5 billion of expenditure right here in California. So that's the perception of the market. But how does the tech go? The tech is linear. So don't be misled in that you see linear development of technology and you think that you can escape Gartner's curve. You can't. But what you also have to pay attention to is what the corporate development does. And in the stem cell field, it went up. But because of those technological challenges, a few in particular, went down. And this is where we sit now, where the stem cell sector is actually hurting because it can't largely tackle two things. Really one thing, cellular purity. How do you get a batch, a cubic meter of stem cells to become a cubic meter of pure heart cells, or pure liver cells, pure spinal cord cells, etc.? There's very few groups like mine in the world that have been able to conquer that, but it's kept the sector down, because if you don't have purity, how does the regulatory body regulate that? You know, if there's 30% toenails in your spinal cord soup, you can't go putting that in a spinal cord. So the regulatory body says clean that up, which means then your cost of goods goes up because you've got to clean it up. So cellular purity has been the bane of existence of the stem cell sector, and that's just a fact. And a couple examples of that, we've had the right cells to put in Parkinson's patients for over 20 years, but they can't get the purity and the secretion of dopamine quite right. Retina. This is pictures of one of my companies that developed three-dimensional retina, and this picture is from 11 years ago, because the scaling for production is very difficult. And in fact, one of the companies on there, their cost of goods is about $350,000 an eye. So who can afford that? This is one of the stem cell sector's greatest victories, is cellular transplantation into spinal cord injury. My team and I were the first in the world to take stem cells of any type and make them into anything in purity, and that was an oligodendrocyte, a spinal cord cell type. And we transplanted into 26 humans, and every single one of them, high quads, no motor function, no sensory function of their arms, and every single one of them regained use of their arms, motor and sensory, in their hands and their feet. Amazing victory for these patients. But the company who owned it at the time had a CFO that walked into the boardroom and said, hey, what are we doing? We can't make money on this because the sector is too small, with 18,000 spinal cord injury patients a year. So there's all kinds of reasons why these technologies fail. And that relegated stem cells really into two big things that are kind of lame as far as total corporate dollars in the door, and that is using cells as screening for models of disease. So you take inducible pluripotent stem cells from somebody with a genetic disease, and now you have an immortalized line that scientists can dump drugs on to try to discover a treatment for that disease. That's a major success. Not very many dollars, but a very major clinical success. And using them for the production of bioidenticals. Throw the gene for insulin in there, and these billions of cells can pump out insulin all day long. So that's been an incredible learning from the field, in that the primary thing we all thought would happen didn't happen with widespread cellular transplantation because the purity and the cost of goods was too high. So how do you marry those things? How do you marry stem cells with a technology that can have an application for longevity? You keep your eye on the tech. So when I looked at the field of longevity, this is what I see as the irrefutable things that extend life. These are incontestable. These are absolutely, positively the truth. You do these things, any one of them, longevity is extended. I don't think there's anybody that argues with them. But what amazed me is that every single one of them works through your immune system. Not a one does not. Gut biome, physical exercise, sleep, caloric restriction, healthy diet, every one of them has their effect via the immune system. But how many immunomodulators are out there? Exceedingly few. Because our drug system is designed around single active ingredients. Our entire drug system and the drug systems of every country in this world is designed around pressing pills with single active ingredients, and the immune system's just too damn complicated. For every effector in the immune system, there's 5 to 10 agonists and 5 to 10 antagonists. There is no more redundancy and complexity in any other organ in your body than the immune system. I'm a neuroscientist. I always thought the brain was very difficult, but when I start studying the immune system, my God, you've got yin and yang and dozens of things for every single physiological outcome, pushing and pulling with tremendous amounts of redundancy. So my message to you today is, if you want to focus on longevity at all, you've got to focus on the immune system. And because that's one complicated beast, you need a multi-active ingredient. And there is a new multi-active ingredient on the market now. Only 3 clinical trials in the entire United States thus far. It's brand spanking new, and that is a cellular secretome. Brand new drug category that most people are, even scientists and medical doctors, are entirely unaware of. A secretome has no immune rejection because my TGF-beta is the same as your TGF-beta, and you can engineer antigenicity out of a protein. There's no fear of tumorigenicity. It's just a drug that you can stop taking. It's not a transplant that you can't get rid of. It's easily scalable. It's infinitely cheap. And to the theme of inclusion, how are we going to get this to everybody, even poor people? You need to make it cheap. And very versatile dosing options, very safe. 17 clinical trials worldwide and using secretomes, not a single adverse event. So my team and I decided to apply this towards immunoaging. So it is a fact that your immune system gets old and angry. You're birthing it every 2 weeks when you're 27. You birth your immune system every 2 weeks when you're 27 years old. When you're 57, it's somewhere between every 2 to 6 years that you replenish your entire immune system. So you are making fewer cells, but what I felt was much more important in the team was that the secreted factors are fewer, because young cells secrete, old cells do not. So the secretome just isn't there anymore. So what happens to your immune system is this. So I'm a musician. This is basically a picture of compression. So when you're young, on the far left of the screen, your immune system is within bounds. But as you get older, it doesn't get wimpy and tired, like you may feel. It actually gets old and angry. COVID does not kill you because of the bug. It kills you because of a misdirected, hyperactive immune response that becomes autoreactive. So the trick to an aging immune system is to compress it, take away the highs and the lows to get it back into that playing ground. So what Immunists did was took media, dumped it onto clinically compliant and ethically derived stem cells, and for the first time in the world made a cellular population that we can grow in the billions and farm them. Just take the secretions, no cells, no differentiated cells, only that protein set. It is the full secretion set. All natural, all human, all relative physiological concentrations. It's a secretome that has multiple effectors, that has multiple physiological functions, and it's a new drug category permissible by the FDA. This is just a snapshot of the stuff that's in this soup. Like, take a look at those, any specialists in the crowd. That's pretty amazing. Those are major effectors of the immune system, major effectors of growth factors, major effectors of the way that cells move within your body. Cell-cell adhesion or the lack thereof. Stickiness or not stickiness, letting them roll through blood vessels and that type of thing. So this secretome is of use to multiple things. So what we did is we took $50,000, approached 5 of the leading aging experts in the world, National Institutes of Health, National Institutes of Aging, professors, and showed, I'm going to blast you here with a little bit of data, but I do want you to know that I'm a scientist and this isn't just, flash. This stuff in animal models suppressed things that inhibit muscle growth and increased expression of genes that enhance growth. It caused anti-inflammation while it caused pro-myogenic transcription of those genes. It increased the number of stem cells. It increased the size of the muscle fibers. It increased whole body strength, increase in particular lean muscle mass. The animals behaved better. These are all aged animals. These are like 65 to 75-year-old humans equivalents. It caused human cells in a dish to increase at about 3 times in a dose-dependent manner that which they should. It pulled in immune cells into the muscle where we squirted it. Another professor did this on arterial stiffness. 100% of humans, not only do they get muscle atrophy, but they also get arterial stiffness. It actually reversed arterial stiffness in aged animals. Given to leading neuroscientists of neuroinflammation and clinical disease, attenuated it extremely. Neuroinflammation and muscle atrophy is what you really want to be paying attention to if you're an astronaut, for example. And then got really, really cool, body fat decreases. These are old animals who become docile and fat. And this is the most amazing thing to me. I gave this stuff out to 5 different professors. Every single one of them, unbeknownst to one another, came back and said, the mice are moving more. They're looking leaner. They look younger. And so we had a professor do work on activity. And the gray bar there through day and night is what a normal animal does. Any animal who gets a shot of STEM is about double the level of activity. They're consuming more oxygen. They're burning more energy. But what really amazes me out of this is the will. Why is that mouse doing it? If you're a couch potato, you're a couch potato. If you're tired, you're tired. If the size of your muscles doesn't matter. It's amazing to me, the psychology behind this of why do these mice feel so energetic? So we've just started human clinical trials in this. The FDA approved us in a single cycle. And we're working on knee osteoarthritis where you get immobilization in addition to age. So these are 55 to 75-year-old people that become immobilized, so you got a double whammy on muscular atrophy, and they lose 1/3 of their volume of their thigh within 6 weeks. And that'll allow us to go into multiple indications for our phase 2s. In addition, arterial stiffness, neuroinflammation, and many, many different things like Parkinson and all those neuroinflammatory diseases like Alzheimer's, etc. So not only the muscle stuff, but other things as well. Just wrapping up, I decided to have the company scale this. So we are fully commercially scaled now at a cost of goods that someone living in remote Africa can afford. I'm very, very proud of that. So my point here is that if you want to think about longevity, you need to think about the immune system. You can't really think of the immune system with single active ingredients. You need a multi-active. And stem cells have provided us now with a new drug category, a new use for stem cells, that being a secretome product. So it's our goal to address this course of immune-related decline that 100% of humans have. That also means aging, and do it with a product that everyone can afford. So thank you very much.
So you've seen a lot of hype and hope in the stem cell world. What lesson would you give to folks who say, I'm going to go get a stem cell therapy that's useful just as a mantra for validation?
I really appreciate that question. So I get probably about 400 requests a week about something like this. I'm going to go to Peru, I'm going to go to Russia, I'm going to go to South America and get a stem cell treatment. What do you think? And my first thought is, if it's a real treatment, why isn't it in the biggest market in the world? Why is it not here? So that's one question you have to ask yourself. The real answer behind that is that those groups are not purifying the cell populations. They don't know what they're putting in you. And they indeed are chopping up aborted fetuses at the backdoor abortion clinics. That's 9 out of 10 stem cell treatments offshore. In the United States, it's illegal to make money from aborted human fetuses, and that's a good thing. In most other countries, it's not. So the cell purity, really quickly, when I was, stem cell scientist of some renown, I put out a call to, I think it was 200 clinics around the world, offshore, and said, if you want to collaborate, I will do a publication with you. My name's good. I'll publish and credential you if you give me a little bit of the stem cell population that you're putting into humans. All I'm going to do is see, is it alive? Does it have anything relative to the disease state? Like, what is it? And that's it. Let me look at those two things. And I had, out of 200 stem cell clinics, 2 said yes, and then they never sent me a sample.
Right. Watch that space.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hans.
Thanks a lot, Daniel.